But let's first talk about Ole Miss and Oklahoma, number 8 versus number 13. Oklahoma is favored in this one by 3.5, which I find intriguing. I think that's a direct result of the Ole Miss loss last weekend. But both of these teams have playoff hopes on the line. You can, in the playoff era in the SEC, I think you can drop 2 and feel pretty comfortable that you are going to catch a spot in the playoffs, that you're going to be able to get there. But anything more than 10-2, you are gambling on other teams failing or the committee to see something in you or whatever. It's not a risk you want to take, right? So this game, whoever loses this game is then out of, any sort of wiggle room. They must win out. Ole Miss coming off that 43-35 loss to Georgia. Oklahoma coming in after a 26-7 victory against South Carolina. These teams haven't met much. This is going to be the third time that they have ever played. Ole Miss does have a 2-0 lead in those 2 previous ones. So what is the key matchup in this one?
There's a lot that I was looking at. I mean, first off, this is a total style clash because Ole Miss wants to play in the 30s and 40s. Ole Miss wants like nothing more than a 10 or 7 game.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is third in the SEC in total offense, fourth in points per game. Oklahoma has the best total defense in the SEC. They've allowed the fewest overall points, fewest points per game. So, I mean, that is a best on best when Ole Miss has the ball. On the other side, Ole Miss has the second worst rush defense in the SEC, fourth worst in points allowed. Oklahoma has the fifth worst rushing offense, and they're 10th in points. So that is just bad versus bad. So I don't really even know who has the edge on which side of the ball, but when Ole Miss has the ball, you're going to see 2 great units. When Oklahoma has the ball, you're going to see 2 slower units. And back to Chambliss at Georgia, he was not super high percentage, a lot of yards from wideouts after the catch. Oklahoma's defense is 100 yards better per game than Georgia's and 90 yards better in the air. And Oklahoma can rush the passer where Georgia really can't. I think this is a way harder situation for Chambliss going into Norman than it was in Athens. And for Oklahoma offensively, they finally found a pulse running the ball last week. I don't really put a lot of stock into running it on South Carolina because LSU did that, and then they still got the Vanderbilt this past week. But Ole Miss, it's worth noting, their rush defense is even worse than Carolina's. So maybe Oklahoma can still replicate that and take some pressure off of Mateer in that passing game and have a balanced attack. But my biggest matchup is definitely Oklahoma's defense versus Chambliss because it's yet another step up from his jump to play Georgia last week.
All right, give me a couple keys to victory here. So if Ole Miss wins, it's because they did this, and this correctly.
Because they protected Chambliss, had give it no more than 2 or 3 sacks. They limited Torrey Blaylock in the running game for Oklahoma. He's by far really their only threat running the game outside of Mateer. And they were able to pick off Mateer at least once because we saw in that Texas game, Mateer had his worst game turnover wise, and they were just dead on arrival. So you got to force a turnover, keep the ball, keep Trinidad Chambliss' jersey clean, and really stop Blaylock from being able to get you.
I think I would add to that, not just protect Chambliss, but I think protect the football in general is kind of an important one there. And I think they need to finish drives that, if they can do that against this Oklahoma defense, they can, they can hang or they can pull it out. Same question, Oklahoma.
Torrey Blaylock runs for 85 yards. You get 4 or 5 sacks on Chambliss, and Mateer's thumb stays in one piece, because he's got to just
body.
Yeah, as long as it's still on his hand, they'll be good. But yeah, for Oklahoma, just more offensive consistency, really, as I think the overarching theme of that, because we haven't really seen that in SEC play, after that Auburn game, because Texas really disrupted them. And then last week, their Mateer only threw for 150. He didn't have to throw for a lot against Carolina, but the passing game wasn't really this. There's a more consistent offense for Oklahoma, and that defense just has to stay within themselves and do what they know that they can do.
I think controlling the clock too is something that could really help Oklahoma. You mentioned at the beginning of this, the style clash between these 2 schools. And Oklahoma wants to force them to play their brand of football. And obviously Ole Miss is hoping for a track meet. Okay. So let's do a little prediction. So defense, home field advantage, those all factor in here. Tell me your score prediction.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take Oklahoma because I mean the number looks so weird. Oklahoma favored by 4.5. No way, almost loses two in a row, right? I think they do. I mean Venables versus Kiffin, I think is an awesome coaching matchup. That's gonna be really fun to watch all day. But I'll go like Oklahoma 28-20. I think that Oklahoma is able to find some decent offense against what is a weak Ole Miss defense. And Oklahoma's defense is awesome, but Ole Miss is talented enough where I think they get some to get up to 20. But give me Oklahoma 28-20.
Okay, our score predictions are decently close here. I have Oklahoma as well, but I put 27-22. So, I expect a tight, kind of low scoring finish to this one.